Ba-do. Oppa. Spook. Great to see you on. Okay, here we have. Oh. Churros. Recipe in the chat below. Very simple recipe. Some versions call for baking soda or maybe baking powder. I don't. I'm just using the very, very basic ingredients of butter, salt, well, salted butter, but whatever. Butter with salt, some sugar, flour, an egg. I'll get an egg out now. A Greek egg roll. Some vanilla extract and some oil for frying. Now, one thing for the piping, and I will show you this now, I like these reusable, cleanable, washable silicone baggies. I have my Russian tips. I think these ones are French. But the easiest way to load these up, I like to just take a tall glass and roll those down, because this way I can just shove my batter in here. And this is good. If you don't happen to have a piping bag, what you can do is grab a Ziploc bag. And one of these days I'll demonstrate this again. But you can take your Ziploc bag and fill it up with your piping stuff. But before you do that, the hack, you take some duct tape, right? And you duct tape the corner, and then you cut a star shape into it. Or whatever piping tip you want out of duct tape. This stuff's edible, it's safe. You throw your filling, whatever you're piping, your icing, your frosting, your goop into here. And then you just squeeze stuff out as you need. I know I have demonstrated it in the past. I'll do it again one of these days, but not today. Today, very streamlined. And the pot on the other end of my that's a stovetop. I have some oil that is preheating. I want this to be around 360 Fahrenheit. Whatever that is in metric units is beyond me. Feel free to use a calculator or just ask Google. Ask Jeeves, ask one of them. While my oil is coming up to temperature, oh, the one thing about frying anything is you should have an instant read thermometer or a good quality candy thermometer in your oil at all times. Because when you add stuff to your oil, the temperature is going to drop down, and you might want to increase the temperature on your element a little bit. But once the oil is at temperature, it's easy for it to go above the desired temperature, so you have to adjust your heating element down a little bit. So there's always a little bit of fiddling. If you want to be successful, if you want things to work properly, you have to fiddle a bit. Okay. Over here, we have first ingredient, a cup of water that we are bringing up to a boil. I mentioned mise en place. Everything is mise en place. Everything is pre-measured. The one thing is the butter. Now, the recipe calls for unsalted butter, and you add some salt to it. The normal ratio of salt in unsalted butter to get commercially salted butter is the exact same as I'm using today. So do you need to use unsalted butter and then salt it? No, you don't. You don't. I'm going to let that heat up a little bit, because first I have one final ingredient. We have our humble egg. Now, I'm going to crack the egg. And it's been a while since I haven't successfully cracked an egg without getting some eggshell in here. You know what's coming up. Damn it. Get in there. Also what someone said. Okay, so somehow we got 3 eggshells in with our egg. Just tilt this camera way the heck down. Oh no, whatever will we do? Time to set fire to the kitchen and start over. Cleanse it with fire. I could use chopsticks, I could use tweezers, I could use a shotgun, but I'm already holding nature's very own patent pending eggshell scooper picker-upper. It's magical. The edge of the cracked shell cuts right through the egg white, and if you can't get underneath the eggshell, at the very least you can just nudge it up the side of your bowl and extract it like so. The idea, though, is to get your eggshell underneath, turn your eggshell cup, and just lift straight up. It works fairly well. It works even better if you have a deeper bowl. The eggshell hack, which I haven't demonstrated live for a while, demonstrated live. Okay, while the oil is heating up, I'm preparing the batter. I'm going to add my... Today's recipe only calls for 1 egg, and the shell is already in the garbage, so no, I am not able to repeat. Well, Maiden, I haven't actually done it on stream for a while. Okay, so I have my water, I have my butter, I have my sugar and salt already measured. Yoink. I'm going to bring this to a boil on medium-high heat. It was already simmering, so bringing it to medium-high heat will not take very long. Well, I appreciate that you're being more positive and that you support the eggshell hack. It means a lot to me. Once this comes to a simmerish, I'm going to be adding the flour, and then I will reduce the heat back to medium-low and cook and stir it constantly with a rubber-ish spatula or silicone like this one. Yoink. Let's get this more centered. Until it's smooth. A few lumps in the dough here is fine because we're going to hit this with a hand mixer, but we want this to be fairly smooth. What we're making here is basically a roux. It's 1 cup of water, half a cup of butter. Normally a roux is 1-to-1 flour to butter. The other thing is a lot of churro recipes call for oil instead of butter. Those are all wrong. Okay, so here I have, you see how flat the top of that is? I leveled it and everything. I'm going to lower the heat to medium-low. And this will come together very, very quickly. The flour will absorb all of the liquid. And we want to keep this moving around so it doesn't stick and burn. And it really shouldn't stick because we have a fair bit of oil, well, fat in here from the butter. So I'm just going to keep mashing this around until all of these big white chunks disappear. Now, if we do get a layer of this batter on the bottom of the pan here, not a problem. Don't scrape it up. If it starts to form, leave it alone and just speed up the stirring process here so it doesn't actually burn. With the heat reduced, it shouldn't actually burn on you. And I want to cook this for just a little bit to get rid of that raw flour taste. I mean, the flour is going to get boiled in oil, so it'll be fine. But I find that cooking the flour improves the taste a little. Okay. Super quick and easy. Again, you can see a couple of little lumps in here. Do we have too much glare? If you zoom in on the YouTube video, you'll see there's just a couple of minor lumps in here. Not a problem. Now I'm going to turn that heat back up to medium and a bit to keep my oil preheating. In the meantime, I will slide this all the way back. Whoa. Do. Much like my compliments, I can't backhand out of this pot. It's a little heavy. We're going to let this cool down for a few minutes because if I add the egg, which is the next ingredient, I need to let it cool 5 minutes. I'm actually going to time it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, click. Right now, the egg would start to cook and I'd be making scrambled eggs, which is not what I want. I want this to be cool enough that the eggs don't start scrambling. We have lots of time. The oil is barely at 300 Fahrenheit. One final note is the cinnamon and sugar mixture. This is half a cup of sugar to 3/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. If you really, really, really like your cinnamon, double it. And what I'm going to do with this, I can whisk this together, or I can just, have fun shaking it and risk a huge mess. And the cinnamon will eventually disperse into this nice cinnamony, sugary mixture like this. Yum. Personally, I'm okay with this amount of cinnamon. Again, if you really, really like your cinnamon, throw in a bit more. Taste it before you go crazy. What else can I bring up? The actual size of the churros. Don't make them too thick because the inside might be a little raw. We're only frying this for about 2 minutes aside. So you want something about a 1/2 inch tops in diameter. So like something pinky sized, give or take. And once it turns a nice golden brown in the oil, pull it out. And transfer it to some paper towels, which I will get out now, just to soak up a little bit of the oil, and then roll it around in your cinnamon sugar mix and serve these suckers hot. Well, warm. This can go over here, that can go there. My oil is at 300. I'm going to turn on my fan just because I have a hard time telling when my oil is actually smoking a little bit. My smoke detector, on the other hand, detects it just fine. Yeah, and Nuvo. So I'm turning my fan on. Hopefully it's not too loud. Neighbors, they're overrated. Now, one thing that I will bring up is my stove has this happy little face here. I know. I know a lot of my American friends kind of freak out about that. Is this? Yeah, I'll give this another minute or two because it's still on the timer. Oh, if you have this spread out, it will cool down a little faster. A double boiler with ice water to cool this down? The fat might congeal too much. There was a question about speeding up the cooling down process by using a bowl of iced water or chilled water underneath this metal bowl to pull some heat out. I'd be concerned about the butter separating. Okay, 5 minutes on the clock. Temperature is almost there. Turn this down just a touch. I'm going to add my 1 egg. Just throw it right in there. And a half teaspoon of vanilla extract. Hand mixer on low. You just want to incorporate the egg. So we'll start off with these like gelatinous balls of buttery, doughy goodness. With a little more mixing, it will start to turn into something more of a dough, which is what we want. And once this is fully doughified, I'm going to shove it into my piping bag, slide my camera over to the oil, and we're ready to make them some churros. So give this a quick squish to make sure it's mixing up, scraping down the sides, although nothing should stick because of the amount of butter in here. Yeah, this is good. We want this to come together, just like the Beatles told us, or was it the Rolling Stones? You know, good enough, because I know if I pick this up and I squish it, it's holding its shape. We're good. I think I can get all of the dough into my piping bag. Once you have enough of whatever you're putting in your piping bag hanging out at the bottom, the rest will stay in place. It'll stay in place well enough to finish doing what you're doing, which is just filling this up. Remember, no fancy techniques. I'm going to leave this cup around as a holder for my dough. I'm just going to give this a gentle little squish. I want this to firm up a little bit. Okay. Last but not least, kitchen scissors. Now my oil has gone a little too hot. So I need to let this cool down just a little bit. I missed some. Oh, I just picked it up. It's in the bag. Okay, if your oil gets too hot, the easiest thing to do is just remove it and let it cool down a little bit. Still leaving the element on medium. If you're in a rush to lower the temperature of your oil, don't add cold water. Don't. Wait. No. You can add room temperature oil to average out the temperature a little bit, but don't put cold water in there. I should demonstrate? Yeah, maybe. Ice cubes are also bad. Thank you, Full Metal Jersey. It's a great point. Maiden, I hate that no finger thing so much. Nuvo, I also, well, you know how often I freak out about it. I do consume a lot of cooking videos and life hacks videos because once in a while they're useful. But when I see this, I have bad intentions. Really, really nasty thoughts come to mind. And not fun nasty, like bad nasty. Woo, that's so warm. But the temperature is down to 375. You know what? Good enough. Good enough. I'm giving my piping bag a little twist. And I'm just going to gently pipe out. Can you see this? Yeah. So to gently pipe out. These might be a little too dry. Ugh. So I'm just piping out some smaller little churros. Then taking my scissors right along the tip and snipping it out. What I am going to use is a slotted spatula, metal one, to remove these from the oil. If you have a flat spider, I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. I don't want these to be stuck together. And you want the oil to be at least 1.5 inches deep. You do not want your oil to change temperature a whole lot. Yeah, Maiden, it is that difficult to squeeze. This tip is a little smaller than I wanted. Also, what? I'm not going to say it. Old habits, right? Okay, this is good for now. Churro bag over here. Slotted spoon. This is a spider. It's one of these mesh baskets, but I'm just going to use my slotted spoon. Once they hit this temperature, they're done. This temperature. Also this color. Once they hit this French fry-like golden brown temperature, or color if you will, they're ready. It's about 2 minutes, and they tend to flip over on their own, just like a lot of fried goods. Like this one is not quite, here, I'll show you what the color is. It's not quite ready, but it will likely flip over on its own. This one is also done. I'll have that one now. Just going to check the temperature. While I'm doing that, I'm going to slide this on back. Okay, the temperature is holding where I want it to be. See how much oil gets picked up? Okay, so there's the churros. I'm just going to throw these into my little cinnamon sugar mixture. Just a little bit of oil will help the sugar cinnamon mixture stick to it. Like you can roll these around manually, but just tossing them in the mixture is all you really need. Because I'm going to take a picture and feed these to the studio audience. Okay, so let this cool down just a little bit. Apparently yum is the word. Now what I'm going to do is pipe this out with a slightly bigger hole, just so I can do it a little more quickly. Kalang. Yeah, like this dough is sliding out of the tip very easily. I don't know why it was so hard to pipe out of the bag. I'm wondering if there was a little too much air. But I'm going to just very quickly bash out the rest of this. If you don't have the fancy star tip, you can just use a hole. Like this would be the same as using a Ziploc bag. Just going to pipe out a bigger chunk of churro, hopefully without cutting the bag. You can see that, right? Okay, good. Now the real question, is this like seafood in that this is just a delivery system for cinnamon sugar? Because seafood's amazing because of garlic butter. Yeah, and this is boiling pretty vigorously. I'm going to save the rest of the batter till for this to cool down a bit. Whenever you're boiling things in oil, remember that any water, and the egg white is basically pure water. The butter is about 20% water. All that water is going to boil and quickly turn to steam. That's what causes a lot of this frothing. So be careful when you're putting anything with water into oil because it'll froth up on you. I just want to make sure that these bigger chunks aren't sticking together. It will take them a little longer to cook. Okay, so the temperature's at 360. This is still good. Giant churro rolls. What I like about the star tip is that there's more ridges, so it gets crispier on the outside. It just adds some texture and more surface area for the sugar cinnamon to stick to. I was getting to it. A lot of dough-based products will float when they're good and cooked. These ones aren't floating yet, though. So anyways, here's my little log number one. Sorry? Yeah, these ones aren't fully cooked yet. They're getting there, though. Actually, this one's a little pale. I'm going to throw this back in. And we were done 10 minutes ago. Like, this is a very, very quick dessert. The part that takes the longest is letting the oil come up to temperature. Yeah, these are good. We have a little bit of dough left. I'm going to don't drop the batter into the boiling oil like I just did because a little bit of oil might splatter back. And this stuff's hot. And I have one more churro left in here. It's a big one. Get right to the edge and just pinch off that log. Yeah. Ew. It's like churro poops. Okay. So while that's cooking it up, That's it. Because I'm going to have one as soon as it cools down a little bit.
Yeah, they're pretty hot. Oh.
It's kind of just like a donut, you know? And yes, I'm double dipping. Deal with it. If you want to experience being double dipped, join the casting coach, hang out in the green room, eat at the dining table, meet the infamous DJ Nuvo, guest cook with or without me in the kitchen. All you need to do, end up in the greater Winnipeg metropolitan region of central Canada, and before that, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to this guy, care of here. I will hook you up. Aaron M 1298H. Hell yeah. Feel free to join the Discord. That's where all the cool kids hang out. There's a section for cooking. There's a section for music. There's a section for art. There's a section for some games that I play. And in each of those categories, there's my stuff, your stuff. Feel free to post. And I take all sorts of requests. If you're curious about any of the gastro science, if you're curious about techniques, different regional or ethnic cuisine, cooking profiles, flavors, ingredients, as long as it's not too obscure or too expensive, I will cook anything. Oh, you're from Uruguay. Awesome. Yeah, this last batch is a little big. The first one I used a star tip, so they were smaller, but the dough was a little too thick. It wasn't piping out nicely, so these are for me, so I don't care if they're a little big.
Oh, sure. You get all the big ones.
Aaron, are you used to churros made with butter or oil? Because most of the recipes that I've seen use oil. I suspect it's because butter is a little less common than especially corn oil in Southern and South American cuisine. But up here in the middle of dairy country, butter is way more common. I'm assuming it's just a regional supply and demand thing. But I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear. Just gonna let those cook a bit longer. But I'm going to hit stop on the recording. The stream up to this point is going to be on YouTube later tonight. Stick around because we got games. We might have tunes. We might have some sort of other stuff. Don't run away.